So a couple months ago at this point, I posted in the YouTube community asking what your guys' film photography hot takes were and got a wide range of things that I thought were not only wrong, but also pretty funny. So I thought we would go through it and I would give my thoughts on some of these opinions. You don't need to put lo-fi in a film photography video. But how would we know that the photos are shot on film? In all seriousness, yes, I agree. And I definitely play a part into this. Obviously, lo-fi is a fairly easy music choice to throw into video and just edit to. I know for my videos, if I'm like in the desert or more thematic videos, I try to include themed music. But for some of the talking head stuff and some of the more basic videos, I don't want to say that, but yeah, the lo-fi is pretty easy. Is it okay to proof with digital to see if you like a scene? Yeah, I think that's totally fine. I think using your camera or even your iPhone to take a test shot of the composition to see how it looks is totally fine, and I would probably suggest it if you're just starting out. Nikon hate in the film community is ridiculous and cringy. Honestly, I don't really see anyone in the film community hating on Nikons other than Volandis, which I think is like a bit at this point. He likes triggering a lot of the Nikon fanboys, especially because I feel like a lot of the Nikon historical cameras are legendary, honestly. Portra is super overrated. Unless you're enlarging, you can get the same results with other color film stocks and scan tweaks. Oof, I couldn't disagree more on it being overrated. To me, Portra is the most consistent film stock that can shoot anything. Landscapes, portraits, lifestyle, anything. I could maybe get behind that it's overpriced, seeing that it is, significantly more expensive than other film stocks. And I will agree that, Kodak Gold and some of these other film stocks do give you, I would say, like 80% of the high quality and colors and stuff that I like about Portra in them. And maybe that doesn't justify the price increase. I feel like I'm kind of talking myself into agreeing with you. But I don't know. For me, there's been plenty of times I've shot other film stocks, not necessarily other Kodak film, but just other film in general, and have had not great results and just wished I would have shot Portra, seeing that it would have given me the most consistent results that I can work with, I guess. The Leica experience is MSRP copium. I love the wording of MSRP copium. I think I'd probably fall somewhere in the middle with this one. Yes, Leicas are very expensive and not a realistic camera for, let's be honest, majority people. But quite literally, everyone that I've talked to who's owned one, and even people online who own them, I feel like they sing praises about it over and over. And I kind of think it's probably like the same thing with the Mamiya 7. Is it overpriced? Yes, but for me, once I actually got it, it's the most fun, best camera I've ever shot with. So it's a tough thing to explain to someone who's never shot it, especially when you're paying that much price. So that's kind of where I fall with it. Original Vision 3 is better than Cinestill. No comment. Editing in post is cheating. Okay, I hate this. As if photography is some type of competition where merits can be judged by how much editing a photo has. Despite the historic relevance of darkrooms, pushing, pulling, burning, etc., etc. Now, we'll keep the comments mild because in his profile picture, he does look like a kid. But for everyone, photographers have been long altering photos before the digital means to do so. So I don't think there's some imaginary oath that gets broken by the film gods to you because you've edited your photos. Come on. Just because you found some novelty in this now art form doesn't mean there's some type of integrity that comes along with not altering your already edited photos. Editing film is fine. Now this is the mindset. When you get your photos developed and scanned by a lab, the lab tech is making creative decisions about color cast, exposure, etc., etc. So the thought that editing is cheating is just ridiculous because unless you're processing it all entirely by yourself, then to the standard set, you're technically cheating by having a lab do it because they're editing the photos for you. All scans are interpretation of the negative, so editing your scans should be a no-brainer. This is the best way to explain it realistically. Regardless of how you scan your negative in, it's always going to be a digital representation of the physical negative. There's no true colors that comes with the film, it's all just how the scanner is interpreting it off the negative. Medium format evangelists are annoying. You don't have to shoot medium format to make good images. / 35mm is better than medium format. Personally, I've never encountered anyone with medium format elitism, maybe in like the Reddit comments. But yeah, people should just be happy to see others shooting film instead of projecting weird insecurities about themselves onto others. For me, I see a great use case for both and generally have one of each on me when I'm out and about shooting. The medium format for the slowed down, good lighting, thought out compositions, and then the 35mm for the more flippant, spontaneous, and experimental photos where I don't have to feel bad about the costs spent on each frame. Now, with that being said, if you're just posting medium format to social media, you're not posting it to, websites or blowing it up physically for your walls or anything, I don't think that it's necessarily justifiable for just that medium format look or bokeh or whatever you want to call it. Especially with current social media, if you try to upload a raw Mamiya 7 photo to Instagram, it's obviously just going to compress it so much because the files are so big. So, I don't know, it's just like a weird spot where I think people kind of lust over these cameras, but there's not really a ton of use case for hobbyist photographers unless you're just admitting that you want to shoot it because it seems like a fun camera, you want the larger negatives for the fun of it, and I think that ultimately if you are going to work towards printing one day, which I think all photographers should be, whether you're a hobbyist or a professional, I think that can be maybe a good incentive to get into that. Which, speaking of printing, I've been looking into snagging a printer soon, and because of that, I've been really trying to fine-tune my post-processing photo skills with the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and much more. Skillshare can help take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. I've also elevated my cooking game recently with their whole slew of culinary options to learn and have fun with. Is there a better time than the winter coming up to hunker down and spend some time learning with Skillshare? The first 500 people to use my link in the description will receive a 1-month free trial with Skillshare, so get started today. Leicas are the most overrated camera to ever exist. If they had a normal/cheap price, no one would want them. What? No. You can't actually think that. No way. If they were cheap, everybody would be shooting them, not the other way around. Yes, many people shoot Leicas and love them because they are a status symbol for a lot of people. There's a reason why there's legacy behind the cameras and the brand. It's not like hype and clout has built it since Leica has been created in the 80s. Also, if you think Leicas are overrated, I really don't want to hear your opinion about my Mamiya 7 or like an X-Pan or something. People need to buy less cameras and buy more books on photography. New gear isn't going to make you a better photographer, but learning about the process and studying the greats is how you can improve. Now scream it to the top of the mountains. Less gear and more studying your favorite photographer's success. More searching for spots and locations and more searching for people to take photos of. Less time commenting online and more time making work. I know YouTubers, even myself, play a role into the gear acquisition syndrome, but sadly to a certain extent, I feel like it is kind of the nature of the beast with the highly commercialized YouTube space. It's up to us individually to understand that a new camera isn't necessarily going to make us a better photographer, but rather some new books or a documentary or even a trip revolving around photography may be just the thing you need to turn a new leaf when it comes to your photography work. Wide angle lenses are totally overrated. Most people would be better off with a 55mm or even a 70mm as their everyday lens, and shooting subjects at wider than 50mm just means you don't know how to compose. Oof, I'm sorry. Again, I could not disagree more. Even when I'm shooting epically large landscapes, I love having a wider angle lens. I would personally rather have to move myself closer, but still have the opportunity to capture more of the frame or story versus not having enough width for a scene. When I bought my Sigma lens for my Sony Digital for video, I was between the Sigma that I bought, a 24-70 and a 28-75 Tamron, which I'd use a lot for work. And to me personally, I would much rather get that tiny bit of extra width so I have more wiggle room versus the marginal zoom. In most cases, we can zoom or crop in post or even just walk closer to give the same effect, whereas I can't generate more of the image from nothing when we're using a zoomed in lens. Additionally, my photography is not just focused on close-up details, so a 70mm would feel unbelievably limiting and almost claustrophobic to shoot with. Love blurry photos. If done well, they can be beautiful and dreamy. Not everything needs to be crisp and sharp all the time. Honestly, I feel like in the current era, this doesn't really feel like that hot of a take. In my mind, subject matter and composition trumps a perfectly focused photo. Additionally, all these Tumblr photos of some shoddy out of focus with the mountains in focus in the background has been so popular on social media for such a long time. Also, I've noticed in wedding and couple couples photography recently that the blurry photos are extremely popular, trendy thing right now. Again, focusing more on the story and action than the clinically perfect photo itself. Much like why many of us shoot and enjoy film, the imperfections tell so much more of a story in and of itself. Taking a shitty photo on film doesn't make it artsy, it's just shit. Yes sir, I've been on this train for a minute. Just because a photo is taken on film doesn't make it any better, more artistic, or valid than an iPhone photo. At the end of the day, it's a medium, much like in painting. Using oil paints versus watercolors doesn't make someone a better artist, just a different one. If a painting is bad, the paint that is used to create it doesn't give it more inherent value just because. And same with photography. If a photo sucks, it being on film doesn't save it. Just because you take a photo of a basketball hoop, old car, or old gas station on film doesn't automatically make it a good photo at all. There's a similar thought when it comes to camera prices. A camera needs to be like a certain price for a professional photo to be made on it, which couldn't be wronger. Unless it's a Holga. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding, just kidding. Shooting snapshots with film is snobism. Again, I don't know why we're caring what someone does with either a medium of art or a means of documenting memories. Snapshots of friends, family, the current times is snobism? That feels like a bit of a stretch to me. If someone enjoys the slowed down process of film, if they're not hurting anyone, who cares what they're shooting? Amateurs buy the nicest high-end mirrorless camera all the time just to poke around with. And to me, that's a lot more cringe. Paying for a $7,000 camera when you've never really shot one is a lot more silly than a $100 film camera to learn on and shoot photos of your friends with. After all, if your house is on fire, what would be one of the first things you run to grab? I know for me and my family, it would definitely be the historic family photos that are priceless versus the physical, meaningless stuff that we can get back through insurance. Rangefinders are vastly inferior to prism viewfinders. In a perfect world, sure, but we don't live in one, so I really can't say that I agree. In many cases, specific cameras couldn't exist without them being a rangefinder, and I, as a Mamiya 7 stan, just have to disagree. Some of the most legendary cameras of all time are rangefinders, and they aren't some of the best by happenstance, so vastly inferior seems like a bit of a reach for me. I think at the end of the day, this really comes down to personal preference, so I'll just leave it at that. Always, it's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. Thank you so much for leaving your hot topics about film. Definitely leave some more hot takes for the future. I would love to do another one of these maybe this winter and see what spicy takes you guys have for then. Otherwise, until then, stay safe, stay shooting. Adios.